to. Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. You know, I love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts, stories, and lessons, put it down in a book, and share it with the many, ultimately changing their legacy and destiny in the process. If you're looking to read a book out there, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. We can help you out with wherever you're at the process. And if you have a book you want to generate leads with it for your business, check out bookmarketingcrm.com. Now, as you know, whenever you listen to this podcast, you know I'm all for the entrepreneurs. And I don't think politicians fix things. I think they cause the problems, and it's up to the entrepreneurs to really fix the problems and be the solution. So that's why this book is perfect for you guys out there, because it does touch part of my heart. And it's called The Solutionists: How Businesses Can Fix the Future. And it is an honor to have Solitaire Townsend with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Mike, it's absolutely wonderful to be joining you from what is a surprisingly sunny London right now.
Wow. I'm in Pittsburgh. So London and Pittsburgh, when it comes to just cloudy environments, we're up there as number one, two, or three. Am I right?
Absolutely, but the sun has come out for us whilst we're doing this call, so I'm very happy.
Nice. Okay. So start off with the genesis of the book. What made you want to write this?
So for years, I've been working on these big social, environmental challenges where you got a lot of activists and you got a lot of people out there sort of, calling for change. But what most people don't realize is that the real exciting stuff is happening in the entrepreneurial world, where startups and some unicorns and some decacorns in green tech, in new types of food, in transportation are really, really beginning to move the dial. But we didn't have a word. We didn't have a way to sum up what it is that we're doing. I set up a pet food company for insect-based pet foods, and everyone goes, "Oh, are you like a social entrepreneur?" It's like, no, they give their profit away. I'm just an entrepreneur trying to
Yeah.
solve the real world problems. And so I found this term solutionist. And a solutionist is someone who brings the answers, who fixes the problems, and for my book, in a way that is really profitable and exciting.
Wow. Okay. I'm with you on that. You're right. So there's the social entrepreneurs, the ones they give away their profits. I believe that the way an entrepreneur makes his or her money is by solving problems, plain and simple. And the more that individual reaps, if they have a great moral compass, moral code, they can do more and more with it. Now, I don't know where you stand with the Elon Musks of the world, but think about what Elon Musk has done over the years. He has changed the world. He has created this new industry that made EV cars cool, right? So like he's doing a lot, and you don't do that with a politician. You do that with somebody who has the entrepreneur mindset that says, "All right, let me fix it. I'll reap a lot of rewards with it, but what I do with those rewards is actually create more and more solutions." So,
Absolutely right. I go into the Tesla story in my book and some things that folks might not know about that story in terms of some of the climate drives from it, in terms of what was needed for legislation to make it happen. I got to interview Bill Gates for the Solutionists, which was fantastic to hear his philosophy around the absolutely driving entrepreneurial need for big, particularly climate solutions right now, and the billions that he's putting into making those things happen. I was out in San Francisco recently at a big clean tech conference where folks were talking about the fact that we're not just going to get unicorns in clean tech, billion-dollar businesses, we're actually heading towards decacorns, $10 billion businesses in some of the green tech right now. We are in a massive industrial revolution, whether, irrespective of the politics, whether you like it or don't like it, we are in an industrial revolution, and there are always winners and losers when those kind of changes come to town, and the Solutionists is all about trying to be one of the winners.
yeah. Is there anything in your past that made you want to become an entrepreneur? Was there a book that you read? Was there a mom or a dad in your life that made you fall in love with this path, or any defining moment? And how did you end up here?
I say thank you. It's a great question. So I grew up in, I know I sound like a very posh British lady, but I grew up in social
You
housing.
do. You do.
I do.
You sound very well educated, and you seem like you got high class. I'm just saying that, just
Thank
so you
you.
know.
I'll take that. I will take that and bank it. I'm very Downton Abbey. But I actually grew up in social housing here in the UK, in the kind of worst kind of poverty that you get in Europe, which, to be honest, is not that bad compared to the rest of the world. But what I realized was that the only way that I was going to get out of where I was through entrepreneurship and education. And then whilst I started working on those issues, entrepreneurship, education, just worked every day since I was 15, set my first business up when I was 24. What I realized was that actually just doing it for myself wasn't enough. That actually just pulling myself and my family up out of that kind of situation, I realized that all the things which bothered me when I was a kid, folks fly tipping, like dumping their trash in poor communities, the air pollution in poor communities, the lack of access to decent food that there are in poor communities, those are number one, like deeply unfair, and number two, huge business opportunities, because this kind of assumption that actually, providing services, providing cleaning up communities, is only something that charities can do. Businesses can do them really well, and that's where I came from. And the accent sort of comes with the education in the UK. You don't get out of having it, but that still burns in me. That desire to do really well for myself, but to actually make sure that I leave a legacy that I can be proud of.
I'm right. Yeah, I'm with you. I just, now that I'm an entrepreneur, wherever I see chaos, I see opportunity. It's a whole mindset shift where once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so when people see an economy that's tanking, I look at it and say, wow, you know what? There's a lot of fires, but if I run towards the fire, I'll capitalize, whether it's on real estate or maybe new solutions, and therefore I'll reap the benefits. So I look at certain things and I say, man, what could I do in this sphere that I know quite a bit when it comes to books and marketing and business that could really gain a lot of traction at this moment. So whether it's AI or whether it's cryptocurrency, we are living in the best time to be an entrepreneur. Am I right?
100%. And also, we've got the big bad. Like, if this was a computer game, we are facing the final boss, which is climate change. So we've got this huge external factor that's come in, and it has thrown all of the rules of the game off. And all the most profitable incumbents that have been around since our grandparents' time are suddenly beginning to look a little bit shaky. There's this term called stranded assets, which is where a whole lot of some of the biggest investors in the world are going, are we going to make our money back on some of these oil and gas investments? Is this actually going to pay off in the 30 to 50-year time horizon we need? And realizing that maybe they should be moving their capital towards some of the bigger entrepreneurial solutions that are coming out. So you talked about chaos then. We have got the master of chaos. We have got the king of chaos, which is climate change, which is going to affect our whole economies. Now, that is scary, but it's also the biggest opportunity of a generation. Like this kind of generations. Like in many ways, this is going to be bigger in terms of the infrastructure and the money than even AI.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty scary. If you're saying that that is what at the forefront of many people's minds, that climate change, you call it the final boss.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is basically this is a do or die situation. We fight this monster off, and in doing so, we have radical, significant improvements in our quality of life and technology chumps. All of that's coming in terms of fighting this, or like we basically sort of manage decline, which I'm not on for that. I'm not up for managing decline. I've come too far. And so when something like this comes along, we are going to engineer, we're already in the process of engineering our entire economies. Like here in the UK, fossil fuels, in terms of our electricity system, now makes less than 5%. Like we have gone so far down the road in terms of renewables. But one of the things which worries me is that a lot of the innovation is not coming from the places where traditionally it did, such as the States or the EU. Like actually, a lot of the biggest innovation on renewables are coming from places like China. So we got a bit of a catch-up job to do. And there's the money, and there are the investors, and there are the people who are cutting the checks. But you really, really got to find your angle within this space. And in my book, I go into what is the $4.5 billion, 4.5 trillion dollar, getting my billions and my trillions mixed up, $4.5 trillion opportunity, which McKinsey outlined and which Bill Gates is backing. And I go through food, electricity, transportation, fashion, entertainment, culture, all these different sectors around what are the solutions that we need. And it's basically a to-do list for entrepreneurs. If you have got a great idea, if you've got the drive to make it happen, this book sets out a whole set of needs where there's literally investors waiting to cut checks right now.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you a couple things that Bill Gates has done recently after this, but I want to get to your book here. In your very beginning of the book, you have an awesome, I guess, illustration about figure one here, the solutionist star, vision, grit, flex, fun, soul. All right. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, all right, listen, if I have vision, by the way, that was chapter one of my first book in 2016. And if you have grit, the stick to itiveness, and you and I flex, I don't know what that your definition is, but let's go to fun. If you're having fun with what you do, you are able to put out an energy very much like I was just on a sales call prior to this. I was late for this podcast, and we were having fun with the person. She's like, I noticed you're a fun person slash fun people. And fun, if you're having fun, you can maybe draw eyeballs from other people to get involved because they want to have fun with you, right? So there's that. And then soul, does it fulfill your soul? Is it when it comes to purpose and you know that you're doing your best and you're here for this mission? So I like this star here. Can you explain maybe the origin of this and what the heck are you talking about when it comes to flex?
Okay, Flex. So I interviewed so many amazing entrepreneurs, business leaders, CEOs, the CEO of IKEA, of Orsted, of Cow Corporation, folks from Google, from maybe InBev, all across the board. And to find out what they've got in common. What have these amazing change makers got in common? I even went and spoke to sort of some celebrities like Lily Cole and others who are making a difference. So if you take, for example, something like Fun, the team who are behind the Who Gives a Crap, Lou Roll, I interviewed them about how they got started, about how they managed to kind of take something like Lou Roll that like maybe we might question whether you can have much fun with that and really create a rapid growth company. The folks behind Impossible Foods, the folks behind Oatly. In terms of flexibility, in the book, I call it the Mississippi mind, that you've got to always know where you're going. That's the vision piece, but you've got to be really adaptable how you get there. Like people get so obsessed with their project or their little idea or their current objectives,
Has to be done this way, right?
and it's got to be done this way. And if it doesn't get done this way, it doesn't get done. And just kind of going, no, you got to throw a whole lot of stuff over your shoulder. It's like, yeah, tried it, didn't work. Next, tried it. I always think of the thank you next. It's like that doesn't just apply to boyfriends; it also applies to business ideas. So, kind of you learn what you learn and then you move on, and that's what the flexibility is about, which is if you are absolutely unmoving, rock solid about where you're trying to get to, unwavering in your vision and indeed your principles, then you've got to be a little bit flexible about the ideas of where you got that. And so many of the traditional entrepreneurs that I spoke to, not traditional, innovative entrepreneurs that I spoke to, they had tried 2, 3, 5, 10 different ideas, all trying to achieve the same thing until they hit the thing that was really going to work.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So whenever I looked at a flex, I'm thinking of showing off or whatever, but it comes down to flexibility, really changing plans, failing fast, and adapting as many times as needed. Right. That is
That's it.
really difficult for people who, I've realized that some of the people who are extremely smart, they're gifted in the school system. They come out, they're not flexible.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks them. So I've realized that the B and C students are very flexible because they're like, oh, they can go with the flow and they can handle the punches, whatever. So they're able to just keep going, learning and adapting. Because even if you come out with a solution, there might be a variable you can't see yet. But as you go down the path, you hit that roadblock. Therefore, you need to pivot, you need to adjust, and you might have more resources. You might meet a mentor who teaches you something else. And so
Yeah.
being flexible is part of it. And the more you lean into it at a younger age, I think you have an advantage down the road. So I like that. I like
I
that.
completely agree with you. And in fact, I go into the psychology of it. I interviewed some psychologists about fixed mindsets versus flexible mindsets. The best bit is it can be learnt. You actually like you're not it's not sort of decided at birth whether you're going to have a fixed mindset or flexible mindset. With if you put some dedicated reflection time, if you actually think about the way that you're operating, if you look at your choices in the rearview mirror and are prepared to spend some time with them, you can begin to learn to be more flexible. You can begin to learn that failure isn't going to kill you. You can begin to learn that perfection isn't always your friend. Like people sort of go, oh, you've done so much, you've done so many businesses, you've set up charities, you've done all of this stuff, and go, yeah, I've also failed like 1,000 times more than most people
Right.
have. Like that kind of failure when you're in the bathrooms, like kind of bearing down or your teeth on your knuckles, going, oh, I can't believe how badly that went. So you got to go through quite a few of those experiences in order to then get a few of the wins.
Yeah, nobody sees that. And that's one thing that I mean, a lot of people hide those failures. I believe the more you talk about your failures, the more you become relatable. But it's part of the game. I don't know if you're a Robert Kiyosaki fan. Have you ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I haven't, but I can see it behind you, and I'm going to put it on my to read list.
Absolute game changer. Really did transform me at the age of 22, 23 years old. But in that book, or one of his books, he talks about how 4 out of 5 businesses fail. So he had a foolproof plan. Just create 5 businesses. And if you think about it in those terms,
Yeah.
oh my God, that changes the game forever, right? Oh, it's this numbers game. All right. So even if this one, not getting too emotionally attached to this business or this one solution, there are many out there. And therefore, it's almost like you go from failure to failure without any loss of enthusiasm. And I think that was a definition of success or happiness to one of the great maybe it was Einstein or somebody like that. But you do
Absolutely.
not get heartbroken over it then.
No, oh no, not at all. In fact, with the kids in my family, I'm always way more enthusiastic about them trying out than necessarily when they win. You got to celebrate the wins, of course you do. But actually, if they go, like if sort of the 13-year-old who's never done any kind of athletics in her life goes for the cheerleading squad, kind of going, that's going to be an experience. Like you're going to have so much fun. You might completely make a fool of yourself, but like you're going to have a great story to tell from trying out. And actually having a massive celebration of trying out is so much more important than sort of withholding that positivity for only winners, because then you just get scared of trying. Actually, failure is great fun. Like it is so much fun, and owning your failures, going, yeah, I really really effed that up like so badly. One of the things of going through the book is that the most successful people I spoke to in the book were the ones who with glee shared with me their absolute complete disasters, their attempts at doing things, the times they got fired, the times that they tried to pull something off and it didn't work. Like it was almost as if these were their favorite stories to tell compared to success. And again, when we're trying to solve something like some of these big social and environmental challenges, we are not going to get it right first time. There is not a well-beaten path. There is not a, hey, if I just do these things that these 1,000 people have done before, I'm going to be okay. We are literally inventing the future here. We are creating something that has not been done, and that future generations are going to look back and go, I can't believe they managed to pull that off with like 2024 technology. That's amazing. Like that's what we're trying to do. So you're going to fail a lot before you actually manage to pull off something that changes the world. And that's what we're talking about here. When we're talking about being a solutionist, we're talking about doing something that doesn't just change your life, that doesn't just change the people around you, but literally changes the world. So you become somebody who has a legacy that goes far beyond your own lifetime.
Yeah. And you're saying things that I think the society needs to hear more of. And losing and failure are actually very good for you, I think, right? When I see people who are afraid of whether it's, thank God that I got rejected by many, many, many girls in college, right? I heard, no, nope, I'm not interested. I'm not going out. It
Yeah.
gave me a thick skin, right? To be able to handle rejection, which allowed me to go into business because you hear no a lot, right? From clients, from potential clients, from on sales calls, from investors. You just hear no all the time. Some people can't take it. And that's why I think that individuals who learn how to lose without losing themselves in the process, you have an advantage everywhere you go. So I think the school system should be able to maybe convey that in a better way, right? Hey, losing is not bad, right? If you give up, now that's bad. So giving up is the ultimate failure. Failing is not giving up, in my opinion.
Mike, have you ever seen a baby trying to learn to walk? It's like it's good that they're wearing those nappies because they fall on their ass a lot.
Oh,
It's like no
keep
baby
beating them.
stands up and walks the first time, and then like it is basically 2 steps full, 3 steps full, 10 steps full. They fall for years. That is how we learn. That's
Yep.
how we get to be good at something. Every single sprinter, every single person you see at the Olympics started out as a baby and fell on their ass. And that's what we've got to learn when we take on board these kind of challenges and kind of go, meh, or even better, say thank you. Thank you for that lesson. Like that is a really helpful lesson. I'm going to reflect on it. I'm actually going to spend some time with it. I'm going to sit with it, and then I'm going to get better. Like I'm a female entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 23. Like then that is not a fun age and gender to get investment.
You're,
Like you
nobody
might
believes in you, especially at 22, 23 years old. First business.
exactly,
Who's right,
exactly.
right.
Whilst you were getting rejected at college by the girls, I was getting rejected by the investors. It was just, you go, God, like, should I cut my hair and just pretend I'm a boy? Should I like hire some like old white male actor to come in and just stand next to me? I literally considered all of that stuff in the early days. And then you just push through it and you push through it and you push through. And eventually you're majorly grateful that you didn't do some of that stuff that you were trying to get off the ground when it
Yeah. You're
good.
happy you got rejected. Oh,
Yeah.
thank God. You were smarter than me. Thank God you. It was,
Because it's back now.
it, and I don't know if you're a very spiritual or religious individual, but it's almost like uh what I think there's a great quote out there. Every rejection is God's protection, right? So sometimes you're being protected from yourself. You don't even realize it.
And that's why I thought long and hard about putting the fifth attribute of being a solutionist as soul. It's like because there's all of these pushback on terms like politically correct or woke and all this kind of stuff. I don't like any of that debate. What I do care about is people sitting down and going, actually, what do I stand for? What matters to me? How am I going to help? And that's like a universal thing. That's something that has survived the test of time. That's something all over the world is basically going like, how am I going to be a good person in what I do for the day? Because like I want to have excitement, I want to be successful, I want to make a difference, but I also want to be able to kind of get some sleep when my head hits the pillow. And so that's why I put soul in there, because what all of these amazing entrepreneurs who are literally changing entire industries had in common is the fact that they really know what they care about. Like they're not embarrassed to say it. They're not kind of dressing things up in a sort of like 1980s sort of like pretense of what business is. They're kind of going, no, like, I want to make a business that, when I'm in my 90s, I feel really proud of, rather than one that in my 90s I pretend I didn't do because it's embarrassing. My grandkids hate that I did it. And that idea of actually having a little bit of soul. And I got that even like a couple of the folks I interviewed. So the guy who started Tony's Chocolonely, which is an incredible, rapidly growing chocolate company that has zero slavery in its supply chain. The fact that that's even a thing is a bit scary that you could claim that, because so many of the other chocolate companies do. The
Wow.
CEO of one of the biggest corporations in Japan, Cow Corporation, they both had really serious life-threatening illnesses. Both of them were kind of, clinically dead for a period of time and then came back. And then they had that like moment when you look in the mirror and go, whoa, okay, maybe I don't have infinite time here. Maybe I don't have like as much as I want to do whatever I want. If I want to make a difference, if I want to make an impact, I got to do it now. And both of them transformed their businesses towards making, really, really great returns, but also actually making a difference.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. What you're saying is that I mean, I think the quote that I live by is think like an entrepreneur. And if you start to build businesses, and I think that's why this message is so important. Whether you're on the left side or the right side, I believe when you start businesses, you look at the world in a different way. Rather than say, government, take care of me, you say, what can I do for the world? And you start to realize that your sweat equity does make an impact, whether it's to create jobs, whether it's you're able to obtain wealth, what to do with that wealth. You start to see how you can maybe close that gap from, going from poor to middle class to rich. And so you can start to take control of your life in every aspect, mentally, spiritually, financially, physically. So is that your message to be more of a business owner? Think like an entrepreneur, because once you do that, I think people start to maybe see how just protesting doesn't do as much as let me be the solution. Let me be the example and let me start something that does change the world rather than wait for someone to change it for me. Is that right?
So, and you know what? Some people are good at that activism stuff. They're really good at getting really angry and asking everybody to change. I spend a lot of time paying attention to the activists, because I'm like, every large activism movement is a market. Every
Yeah, that is. My God, you're right. That's what you see big corporations catering to these people.
Yeah, every single one of those movements, particularly if it's a big one, has got a 10x, a 1000x more people who are like kind of sitting on their sofa and kind of agree with those movements. And so that means, and a lot of the big corporations I work with, and I work with some of the biggest corporations, I work with the Googles, I work with the IKEAs, all around the world, they pay very close attention to those groups, even though they're often being campaigned against, because they're like, those are our consumers, that's our consumer base. And if it's big enough that it's beginning to actually kind of catch fire online, it means there's a lot of people who care about this. And as a business, my job is to fulfill consumer need. That's what I'm here to do, and that is a consumer need that needs filling. And in my book, I go into the story of plant-based, and like plant-based, we used to call it vegan. It used to be for like small little folks who like wanted to grow their own hemp and what have you. And now it's a multi-billion dollar business. And I'm not just talking about the alternative meats movement, which is one part of it, but actually just like a whole lot of people who are going, for my health, I need to get some more green stuff. Like this is, if I'm going to live a long life, if they're now saying we might make it to 100 in terms of lifetime, I have got to get some more vegetables in this body. And actually that has become a huge market, massive market in Europe, growing in the US. And, that started out by a whole lot of protesters. So what I say to you is like, when you look around some of these movements, they usually is because there's an unmet need at the heart. So a movement is a market, and you've got a massive entrepreneurial opportunity there.
That's a great way to put it. You never think about that. All right. It's catching fire. There are companies out there that say, wow, it's a built-in market, built-in demand. We could easily sell or market directly to them and just kind of ride the wave for a while. Oh, yeah. You think that they're just, yeah, they're trying to help out the message, but really they're just trying to sell. Pretty fascinating.
It's usually a bit of both. So, like, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a climate vegetarian, but I'm also a pet owner. Absolutely love pets. It's really weird for me to put down like a bowl of meat for my cat every day when I don't actually have meat in the house. And that made me realize, I wonder how many other people like me there are. People who are like have got sort of, have decided to cut down on meat, have decided to become vegetarian, but really love their pets. And so I realized that's like a weird situation that we're forcing some people who have got a certain set of values into, and they might have to make the choice to give up their pet. That's not okay. Pets are awesome. And so I started a pet food company that made 100% insect-based protein for cats. You can't have a vegetarian cat. They're obligate carnivores, some of the only ones in the world. And it's called Love Bug, and it was like the pet food launch of the year in the UK, and I did a partnership with Mars Pet Care, and it's taken off and grown massively because what I identified was there's a consumer need. Now, there's a bunch of people who hold a certain set of values, and their values are in opposition. They really love having pets, but they're also vegetarian and they don't like having meat in the house. Are they having like a massive argument about that on social media rather than having like a whole lot of flame war with trolls? Set up a business to solve that problem for them so that people can live in the way that they want to with their values, because you've basically invented a product that helps them out.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I mean, I'm a pet lover. There's people on my team trying to get me to get cats. So I'm listening. I'm like, it's good. It's an idea of what they're looking for, but I didn't know that fact. Are the only ones you said that have to eat meat? Is that right?
There's a very few things like human beings are omnivores. We eat both cats, spiders, sharks. Vultures. There's a small group of animals on Earth which are obligate carnivores. They can't be vegetarians. Actually, you can have a perfectly healthy vegetarian dog if you put a bit of effort into it. Take some effort. You can't. Cats have to eat something, but actually, cats eating insects perfectly natural and normal. Everyone's seen their cat catch a fly. And so actually doing an insect-based protein, which many vegetarians are okay with, perfectly fine. And also you get all this stuff about woke going, oh, we're going to have to eat the insects in the future. It's like going, nah, but we might feed them to our pets and make some billion dollars out of doing so.
All right, so where do we start here? So if somebody's out there listening and they want to become a solutionist, is it based off of seeing where the biggest need is, where their strength lines up with the need, or how they want to be remembered, or maybe a problem they want to fix, and then having the solution that has an offshoot to maybe donate or contribute to a cause? So what do you propose for that first or second step?
So, as I said, there's a whole list of explicit needs where there is really significant investor money available at the moment in the book. What I would always say is go with where your passion leads you. You know this as well as I do. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Like it's a little bit weird. You've got to be a bit of a weirdo to be an entrepreneur
Of
because,
course,
like,
yeah, chaos. You got to enjoy chaos to some
like
degree.
who would do this? You don't have a guaranteed salary. There's not days off. It's like, it's got to be something you feel really passionately about. And so what I would do is rather than trying to be too cold or clinical about it, go with that soul, go with that sense of what's the change I want to see in the world, and can I see a business opportunity to fulfill it? And what we're really looking for here is breakthrough products and services, ways to meet the same needs. But no one wants to sacrifice to save the world. I don't want to sacrifice to save the world. I want to have just as good quality of life. I just kind of would really like to beat the big boss, climate change. So that's where innovation comes in, listening, paying attention, looking to what some of those movements are asking for, and going, rather than getting annoyed about it or kind of like writing a blog post, I'm going to invent a business to meet that need, flip it on its head. And that kind of thinking is what leads to some of these amazing businesses like Oatly, like Impossible, like Who Gives a Crap, these breakthrough businesses that Bill Gates invests in terms of some of these very, very large techs. He's betting on techs which are competing against each other. Like he's betting on renewables and on hydrogen, and they're saying, oh no, we heat bumps and hydrogen. People are going, oh no, it's one way or the other. And he's betting both ways, because he's basically saying we need everything. We need every solve that there is right now. We need every great new piece of tech. We need every great new solution. We need services. We need like this radical transformation of our economies. And he would quite like to be on the kind of winning side of that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So have you talked to Bill directly?
Yeah, I interviewed him for the book. He's the interview's in there.
Very nice. Okay, good deal. Yeah. He's a very I guess you could say controversial figure in many circles at this point, just so you know. You probably know that though, huh?
I don't think you get to be at that level of power, influence, and success without being controversial. Like, I honestly think it kind of comes with it. And that's like for any of us who are looking to grow the influence we have in the world. I get trolls. I get a lot of trolls. And also that, like, I don't like everything he does. There is nobody at that level of power and influence where I like everything that they do. What I do have is a deep respect for him as an entrepreneur. Like, that is a guy who knows how to make money, who knows how to build successful businesses, and has done so again and again and again. And so whatever I think of him as a person or his politics or any of the rest of it, I would be a fool not to see where his attention is going in terms of what's going to make money next.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody, no matter what, right or left, to say that he's not smart is just foolish because he is smart. But I am not a fan at all with what he did with the vaccine and not a fan at all with what he's doing with the farmland. He owns more farmland than anybody else in the world, I think, or maybe just the United States. But that is really wild. Why would an individual buy up farmland and then say don't eat meat? It's pretty wild. Am I right?
I would suspect you might find that, for example, the British royal family owns more
Oh,
farm.
is that in British? Okay, so maybe just the United States, but he owns the
Yeah,
most in the United States.
it's just the nicest. I think one of the things which listening to him talk quite a lot and having interviewed him that I see is like this is somebody whose kind of mind works a little bit like a machine in terms of this is what's coming, this is what's necessary, this is and therefore this is where things are going to go, and he thinks like 10, 20, 30 years ahead. One of the things which I know for something like about renewable energy is when you survey people across the states, again both on left and right, and you ask them what they think about things like climate change, there's massive differences of opinion, huge differences of opinion about how people feel about it. But then when you ask them in 30 years time, will we get most of our electricity from renewables or will we get it from oil and gas, everyone goes, oh, renewables. Like people have already made their decision about which way the future is going to go, whether they like that or not. You find these expectation surveys as absolutely this is how our economy is going to go. And I think a lot of people are a bit clinical about basically going, then I'm just going to go with that. Because if that's where the economy is going to go, if that's where the money is going to go, if that's where the investors are going to go, then why would I try to do something against the grain? Now, that's not to say that going against the grain in politics isn't a good idea, but I sometimes think that as an entrepreneur, you want to be disruptive, not stupid.
Oh, fair. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you want to catch attention, you want to catch eyeballs, be disruptive, not yeah, I like that. I think the ones who really make an impact, whether it's the Stripes of the world or the Ubers, they disrupt an industry and they do something in a different manner and just start thinking outside the box. And that's how you become a solutionist. You become the go-to source if you're a little bit different. I like that.
If you're a little bit different, and if you're going, I see the way this is going to go, and I'm gonna make this mine. Like this is happening. When you look at consumer groups around the world, when you look at kind of some of these big boring macro political things, when you look at some of the science, it's like this is the way this is going to go, and my job is to find a way to solve those problems as an entrepreneur, and to actually kind of put business at the heart of making some of these changes.
Hmm. Outside, the last question I have for you, outside of your own book, is there one that you recommend to our audience? Like I said, Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my future, my destiny, everything. That's why I pay homage to it daily. Is there anything like that in your life that you recommend to our listeners or viewers?
Oh, it's such a hard question because there were so many. I'm actually not going to do a book. I'm going to do a movie. Can I do a movie?
Yeah, of course. That's I'm a movie person. Let's see it.
It's,
Which one?
so yeah, like the one of the one of my favorite movies of all time is Black Panther. I think it is
Have not
um
seen it yet.
such a fantastic movie. And one of the things which I love about it is just like the inventiveness about technology. So in that movie, like, it's a whole lot of other stuff and it's great and it's emotional and you cry and there's lots of action. But actually what they do is they invent in this world of Wakanda all this innovative technology, all this stuff that we don't have, all this way to change the world through technology. And that's one of the things which I find really, really inspirational. We need more visions of what the world could be like. One of the things which I'm really aware of when I go around the world and I travel across China, across Africa, across South America a lot, is that people kind of look at Europe and North America and as the best that you can get. And that's amazing. That is fantastic. But we're not done yet. This should not be the best that we get. We're like, people talk about Europe and North America being developed countries. I hate that term. It's like, what? Because this is it, developed. There's no, like, our forebears, everybody who came before us, had massive aspirations of how to improve their lot, of how to make their lives better for their kids and their grandkids, of how to actually kind of progress beyond where things were right now. And that's what I think we need a little bit more of, is to kind of go, actually, this is not the best that we can get. We can have so much more. We can have such a better quality of life if we just are prepared to imagine it.
Man, it's great. I love how you put the final boss thing. It's been in my mind ever since you said that. And I think that it's just important to understand who your enemy is. I think there's a book out there called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet David. And having an enemy is it almost gives you clarity of what you need to tackle. And whether it's climate change for you, or in my opinion, it's the system, or maybe it's just evil in general. But knowing who the dragon is or what the dragon is, knowing that you need to slay that by doing X amount of work or X amount of decision making or problem solving. I think knowing your enemies and defining that individual or the entity very well allows you maybe to have a little bit more wind in your sail, maybe a little bit more motivation to get out there and make it a reality that you are able to become the hero of your own story, if you will.
100%. And final bosses are beatable. It's not easy. And as you said, you might fail a lot on the way. But one of the things which people say to me about climate change is like, number one, is it happening? Yes, it is. Number two, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's like going, hell yeah, we're gonna beat this thing, and we're gonna do so in a way that absolutely kind of pushes entrepreneurial solutions to the forefront. We're going to do it in a way that makes a lot of billionaires if we do it in the right way.
Nice. Outside of your book, what is the number one way, number two way, or two ways to get a hold of you? Maybe through social media or a website. Is there anything you recommend for people to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm all over. I've got a really, really unusual name, Solitaire Townsend. So I'm really
Solitaire
easy.
Townsend. You can't forget that. That's so memorable.
Although, Mike, there is a small bird in America called the Townsend Solitaire. So if you've not found me, you found a small starling-like bird, I think. But I'm really active on LinkedIn. That's one of my favorite platforms to share. And my website is wearefutera.com. But I'm really, really, really grateful to have come on this. Thank you so much for having me on, and you're questions were great.
Oh man, it's been fun to talk with you. Even, when you're looking at our agreements on we don't agree totally on Bill Gates, but we agree on pretty much the entrepreneurial drive needs to be instilled in kids everywhere. And I believe the website you have in the notes here, wearefutera.com.
WeAreFutera.com. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So get in touch with Solitaire Townsend. Thank you so much. Guys, the book is easy to find. All right. The Solutionist. All right. Easy to find on Amazon. Let me pull it up. Um, the Solutionists, how businesses can fix the future. 4.8 stars, 51 reviews on Amazon. It's resonating. Kindle paperback and hardcover, and it's doing really well. So it has been an honor. Look at that's a nice looking cover and everything. Very clean. The Solutionist, guys, pick it up. And thank you so much for being here, Solitaire. Really means a
Oh,
lot.
Mike, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Guys, remember, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.